visual guy, and this picture came to my mind as soon as Ramos gave me this topic called "Lead with Your Heart." Today morning, Saurabh was today afternoon in the first session. Saurabh talked something about functional fixedness, and I have seen almost a fear in people's eyes when they hear topics like "lead with your heart" and things like that, because there's a genuine fear saying that, oh my God, are we going to hear something very esoteric, which is has got nothing to do with the real life, very much like the platform number 9 3/4 Hogwarts Express in Harry Potter. There's no such platform between 9 and 10. And I'm going to address that precisely. Don't worry about it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to dip into my coaching journey, and the whole plan is to leave you with a few things, a few thoughts, a tool is a big word, but a few kind of tips which you can implement, maybe if it makes sense to you, right from tomorrow onwards as you go back to your companies. Extremely privileged to be talking to the lot of entrepreneurs, because I decided to be an entrepreneur about 5.5 years back. And what attracted me to entrepreneurship is this whole concept of coaching. Because coaching has this philosophy which says that everybody has their answers. Your job is to really help them figure out their own answers. And that is what attracted me the most. So I run proudly a two-people company. My wife and me run this company, and there's absolutely no ambition to add a third person. And we literally started with a blank slide. If anybody had asked us to show us what is the work that we are doing, this slide was blank about 5.5 years back. Today, as we speak, after 5.5 years, this slide looks pretty filled up, and that gives me a lot of joy. And the other reason to show this slide is also Ramos also told me that you better show something like this, because your profile doesn't exude a lot of confidence. So I'm just telling you that I've done serious work, guys. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk about what exactly does this lead with your heart means. Because sometimes this has very, very esoteric connotations. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to try and keep it something which is very close to the practical life. So let me begin. All of you may be knowing the guy on the left-hand side, and I'm going to tell you the story of the wizard. And continuing with my Harry Potter theme, on the right-hand side, you actually see the car which was used in Harry Potter movie, the flying car. And by the way, that actually car is a Ford Anglia. The model of that car is a Ford Anglia. So it's just a coincidence that, I'm telling you the Ford story. Because to my mind, just like Harry Potter, the Ford was a wizard. Henry Ford the first was a wizard. And a lot of people don't understand this, because he is the person who really started not only automobile industry, but in a way, he started actually the modern concept of manufacturing. He was the first person to really get into the way of what we call assembly line. He was a person who started with a passion, and I'm going to narrate his story for a couple of minutes, because that has got a lot to do with what I'm going to talk later on. So Henry Ford started, just like many people of his era were wanting to build an automobile. He started his company famously in a workshop. Son of an immigrant farmer who had come from Europe. His father genuinely thought that he shouldn't get into this madness and he should do the farming. But here was the guy who was literally fascinated by this whole concept of building the car. So it obviously started with a passion. He did two jobs. One job to sustain his living, his rent and all that he was paying, and one job to actually buy the raw material and tools to build a car that he was building. So the thing which started with this passion slowly moved on. He famously built his Model T, and then came a concept saying that he said, I'll change the market. The car should be affordable to a lot of people, and it will be affordable only if I standardize the process. And that's when this whole concept of standardization of manufacturing, the assembly lines, the whole 9 years came with it. And he was really the pioneer and founder of that, hugely, immensely successful. The story goes forward. Henry Ford became so obsessed with his understanding of customers, his sense, his intuition, that he stopped believing anything else. and he almost destroyed the company that he started. A lot of people do not know, but actually, when his grandson took over, the Henry Ford too, when he took over, the company was in doldrums, and that is a time a very important thing happened. Here was a young man who was not very sure about, taking over a family company, which was in doldrums, and that time is the entry. The Second World War was over, and entered what is known in the industry as whiz kids, the people like Bob McNamara and things like that. So all those control systems that you see today, the management reports that you see today, the credit goes to the biscuits. They literally started getting some systems and processes in Ford because Ford badly needed discipline. And they brought some kind of a discipline in Ford, and Ford was back on track. In coaching, we say that your strengths can as well be your weaknesses, and that's exactly what happened. I think the Ford Motor Company got so obsessed with this whole system of management that they actually forgot that there is something called, the company started with a passion for building cars. So from this extreme, they went to the other extreme, and even that was not helping. And they were again in doldrums. And that is when all of us know, famously, the Japanese car makers took over the market. It finally took Alan Mulally, who literally had the blend of, who had the wisdom of using heart and brain together to literally turn around the Ford. And those of you who are interested in reading, you must read these two books. One is by David Halberstam, which is called Reckoning, The Reckoning. It's about this whole auto history that I talked about. And the second book is called American Icon, which is how Ford Motor Company was turned around in this century. Now, why am I sharing this story in today's context? And what is got to do with the topic of today? The point is, let us be very, very clear that in a owner-managed company, in an entrepreneurial company, the entrepreneur is the center of the universe, and the way it has to be. And the entrepreneur can be the biggest asset for the company, or he can be the biggest liability. So the really question when we talk about lead with your heart, it is not about getting emotional or, that kind of a stuff. It's really about how do you really strike a balance when your view is at the center of your universe, the company that you're running. And it is very easier for somebody like me to say that, there has to be a balance or something. But all of you who are running your businesses would know that, you start something with passion. Many a times you do not find enough number of people or employees who match your passion. Many times there are difficulties, and you almost feel that you are left alone to solve a lot of strategic problems. At that point of time, one of the things that helps, and with my experience of coaching a lot of corporate leaders and a lot of entrepreneurs, more importantly, I have realized that coaching can be done to the self also. And there's a concept called self-coaching. Now, when I say lead with your heart, today I'm specifically going to give you some very, very simple methodology to apply coaching to yourself as an entrepreneur. Because to my mind, you are at the center of the universe, and how do you really strike that balance depends on how do you coach yourself. The biggest question that always asked is, entrepreneurs, as I said, are the center of the universe. They are the biggest asset of their company. They can also be the biggest liability. So how do you really harness this energy of an entrepreneur and stop him from destroying what she has built up himself or herself? So I'm going to talk about what I call the P3 symptoms. When you see these symptoms in you, please understand these are the symptoms which are warning bells, and I'm calling them P3 symptoms, and I'll come to that. By the way, this is you can trust these symptoms because these are not thought through by me. In fact, this is based on the work which was done by Martin Seligman, who is called the father of positive psychology. He came up with this concept of learned optimism, and there's a brilliant book by the name. And he talks about how do you think and how are you going to act how pessimist or how optimist you are. And by the way, extreme on both sides is bad. Okay, extreme on pessimism leads to inaction. Extreme on optimism leads to madness. So, how do you really recognize that you are suffering from one of the three P's? And what are these three P's? The first, and I'm going to take a used case and I'm going to talk about, let's say, hiring people, because the n number of entrepreneurs that I talked about, the biggest pain point seems to be how do we hire right people? We are growing, we are scaling, but how do we hire right people, right? So suppose you are hiring young professionals for your company, and you are not getting success in hiring the right kind of a young person. If you hear yourself saying, oh, we are never going to hire right people, please understand, this is a very, very simple symptom showing that you are suffering from the permanency P of the three Ps. Sometimes there's an incident which is happening here and now, that right now I'm not able to hire a person is perhaps the right description of what is happening. But when you say that, oh, we are never going to hire a right person, you need to take a step back and understand that you are actually falling prey to this P of the three Ps, which is called permanency. You are taking an event and making it permanent. That's the first P. The second P is pervasive. And this is my favorite because I've heard it so many times from so many entrepreneurs that, trying to hire a young people, somehow that they are not working out, they're not able to attract a bright talent. And I often hear a statement, oh, today's youngsters are only interested in money. Now, this is simply put, taking again the problem which is happening with you right now and just stretching it across pervasive, as if this is what the world is about. So when you find yourself making those generalizing statements, making those labeling, that's a sign, that's a kind of a symptom you should look for. Because the moment you think that, oh, young people are only for money, I would request all of you to go to a place called Ladakh and Siachen and check out there. There are quite a few youngsters who are in their early 20s standing there in the very, very harsh situations just so that you and me stay safe here. So I think these generalizations don't work. That is a pervasiveness. So the first is permanency, taking an incident and saying that, oh, this is permanent. Second is taking an incident and explaining it as pervasive, okay, which is generalization. The third P is the most dangerous. And I've seen some of the entrepreneurs getting into that. And that is personal. The moment you make something personal, which says that, you start making statements like, oh, maybe my company is not attractive to the youngsters. Maybe my company is not attractive to the bright people. The moment you are now taking that failure to hire as personal, you are falling in the third P. Why am I sharing this with you is because to my mind, these are the symptoms that you need to look out for as an entrepreneur. It's very simple what I'm talking about. You don't need a coach also to tell you these things. Literally tomorrow onwards, when you see getting into one of these three Ps, am I taking an incident either on positive or negative side and making it permanent? Am I taking an incident and making it pervasive? Or am I taking an incident and taking it too personal? If you find that happening to you, you need to quickly come out of that. The antidote of the 3P I'll come to in a minute. But the reason to come out of this 3P is that the fact is that as long as you are stuck in one of the 3Ps, you are never going to solve your problem. You're not going to move ahead. You will get stuck there. And that is why it is extremely important first to take a step back and identify, am I hampering with one of the 3Ps? And if I am hampering, what do I need to do? Data is a solution. The right information, the right data is a solution. And before going into anything, not only about hiring, but any time, if you get into one of the 3Ps and you find yourself in one of the 3Ps, ask yourself a very simple question. Am I pretending that there is no contradicting data? Data never tells lies, and that's the beauty about the data. So just ask yourself a question. Am I really pretending that there is no contradicting data to what I'm thinking right now? The moment you ask that question, it may sound stupid at this point of time, but if you ask that question, you actually break the shackles. Now, continuing with the use case of the hiring that we talked about, if you're getting into this, there's a very high chance if you're getting into one of the three P's stuck together, you have not really put together an appropriate information. Okay? Because appropriate information is the only antidote for the P3 symptoms. And now, what is the appropriate information? So let us continue with our use case of hiring and let us say what we are talking about. So as I would love to say, key to unlocking the path to the holy grail of leading, sometimes my credent community makes this whole thing very complicated. And I just want to tell you that it's actually very simple. You can self-coach yourself. You can guide yourself with these simple techniques and questions. The first is we all have, sometimes I realize as I'm 50 now, age-wise, I started realizing the childhood stories that I heard, I'm beginning to understand the meaning of those stories now. Maybe it has got to do with my IQ. I heard this story that there were three stone cutters, yeah, who were cutting the stones, and somebody goes and asks them, "What are you doing?" The first one says, "I'm cutting stone," and that's right. That's what they're doing. The second one says, "I'm building a wall," and the third one says, "Our village doesn't have a school. I'm building a school." And naturally, they're doing the same job. But the third one has a better chance of being better engaged and better productive in a job because he really thinks that he's doing something better. So when you're trying to hire people, the first question I always ask entrepreneurs is that, do you have a story to say? Can you really articulate? And by the way, this articulation does not mean that you have to concoct a story. In fact, to the contrary, when you tell your story passionately, what you're really up to very passionately, believe me, more than any other smart tactics or storytelling, that works much better. And I'll give you a very simple example. It's interesting that Saurabh talked about evolution today. So I'm going to take up the same theme. In the evolution, our animal brain or amygdala is much older, and our logical brain is only 50,000 years old. So the decision making is actually done by what is called our animal brain. It has no sensation for language. It has a sensation for feelings and what it perceives. And decisions are taken by that part of the brain. So when somebody really feels your passion honestly, they get it. You don't have to be a smart communicator for that. But if you're stuck in one of the three P's, you will never be able to articulate anything with a confidence. Like, for example, if you're stuck in, I'm never going to hire people, if you're stuck in, young people are like this, or if I'm stuck that I don't run such an exciting company, you will never be able to talk about with a passion about what exactly you're doing. But that is the first point. You need to really, really be proud about whatever you're running. And it was great that I saw that pride in some of the panel members talking in the earlier panel. It's just sweet to see that, yeah, when people are passionate about it. And is your vision inclusive? Is your purpose inclusive where they can find their own purpose? And this is something only you can do. You don't even need any help to do this. But that's really the starting point. The next is very interesting. Do you actually have an actual description of the profile beyond the prototypes? When I ask people what kind of a person you want to hire, typically the answer they gave me in terms of qualification, typically the answer they gave me in terms of experience and what kind of domain. They never talk about the kind of individual that you really want to hire. And every time, and I've been hiring people for close to 3 decades now, every time when you have that clarity, the results are spectacular, going beyond the prototypes. I'll give you a very simple example. A lot of people tell me, oh, we are in a very specialized thing. It's a high-end work and we cannot afford any experiments. So we have to have people who have done it earlier. There are two E's of hiring. One E is of experience and expertise and the other E of enthusiasm. When you are hiring, you also need to look out how enthusiastic is the person whom you are hiring. And these two gentlemen on your screen, let me tell you a quick stories. before I run out of time. On your screen, as you see, the person facing you on the left side is a person called David Yates. David Yates directed the Harry Potter film from the Order of Phoenix onwards. Okay, and before it had already become a very famous franchisee and a multi-million dollar franchisee, so a lot at stake. But that was the first feature film that he directed. And the Harry Potter franchise actually appointed him as a director and gave him those multi-billion dollar budget because they were very clear what exactly they are looking out for in the next Harry Potter movie. So that did not come in the way of, oh, how can this person who has never ever directed a full-length feature film, we can give him a film as big as Harry Potter. The person on your right-hand side is Alan Mulally, and he was the guy who was hired from Boeing to turn around Ford Motor Company, and everybody in the Detroit laughed because they thought automobile company can never be run by an outsider who is not from an auto industry. And I think both these gentlemen are ample proof of they have proved wrong that this thesis does not work. So what I'm trying to say is that go beyond the stereotypes. Ask yourself a question: what kind of a person I really want? What are the kind of qualities that I'm looking out for that? I'm talking about the portrait of a person. I need a person who can fail. I need a person who has failed a couple of times in life. I need a person who has a high energy. I need a person who comes from a small town. Whatever is the description, just go beyond the stereotypes. The next is a little tricky one because these are the questions that you need to ask yourself extremely honestly. And a lot of people want to hire people for innovating. Now, if you are hiring people to innovate, ask yourself a question: can you tolerate mistakes? If you are hiring people to build scale, ask yourself a question: do you personally believe in the processes? If you are asking people to be disciplined soldiers, ask yourself, are you yourself predictable? And the honest answers to these questions about yourself will have a huge impact on the way you hire the right people. Because please understand, there's nothing called the people who join you, they join you to build their own careers, that they are wrong. You have to go back to your hiring specifications, and more often than not, you will find the answers in the wrong specifications. Coaching has one concept. The moment I throw the locus of control outside my body, I have no solutions. But the moment I say, what is it that I have done that caused it, you will actually have some action plan. Last but not the least, I think I just took hiring as a case to say that what is leading with your heart. It is basically being honest, asking yourself very simple questions, checking out for those symptoms. And if you really have to expand it to the leadership, there are three questions if you're running the company. And I ask these questions. I have been a personal beneficiary of these questions. Do you really have a clear portrait of what your customers look like? Again, not what domain, what size, just go beyond that. What do my customers look like? Like, for example, I have a very clear understanding that a very pet line, and I like to say that the personal respect that you get, especially in the B2B business, the personal respect that you get is directly proportional to from your client is directly proportional to your gross margin. So I have a very clear picture, an articulation of what kind of clients I want to deal with. It is not ego. It's just a clarity about what kind of people I want to deal, what kind of team I want to hire, and what kind of organization does it look like. Because if you go beyond the obvious, if you go beyond the stereotypes, and if you really ask yourself these self-coaching questions, the clarity that you have is phenomenal, and it will have a huge impact on how you look at leading people, organization, more importantly yourself. I see Ravi appearing in the screen, which means my time is getting up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the last but the most important slide. After 2.5 hours on Zoom call, it takes patience to hear to somebody like me for about 25 minutes. And I appreciate all of you. This is the motto of my life. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Okay. And it does not require great tools or techniques to really coach yourself. All it requires is raw honesty with yourself. And if you really believe in that, to sum up, just look out if you are falling prey for one of the 3 P's. Ask yourself the honest question of what exactly you want. And leading with heart is not as esoteric as it sounds, because these are some of the tools you can use if you believe they work tomorrow onwards. With that, I thank everybody